I have been learning languages for the past decade, and after reaching fluency in 7 and learning my 12th language this year, I'm excited to bring you the new rules of language learning that will help you understand how you learn best, but also how you can make the language learning process entirely your own. Because I know that there's a tendency to feel like you're always behind, or you're looking at someone else and wanting to copy their routine. Language learning does not have to look like anyone else's in order for you to reach your goals. Now, the first rule we're going to talk about is making sure your language learning adheres to the 3 core principles of the Mindful Fluency Method. That means make your language learning useful, sustainable, and enjoyable. And that includes the resources, the methods that you use, the strategies. There is no objective best method or way to learn a language that is for everyone. But by adhering this rule to your own language learning, you can truly find out what is useful to me in this moment. What is sustainable? What can I continue to do without me having to rearrange all of my life in order to fit it in? And what is enjoyable, right? What doesn't feel like a chore? It is possible to have all of these things, I promise you, especially for the language learners who have been frustrated with their language learning process for whatever reason. But once you have all of these things in place and you regularly reflect on if your resources and strategies are still adhering to these 3 principles throughout your journey, that is when you really start to learn languages your own way, and you don't get so preoccupied by what someone else believes is useful, sustainable, and enjoyable for them, because everyone is going to have different definitions. The next rule is to think always of yourself inside of your language learning process as a neutral scientist who is simply observing data and getting to experiment. Now, I know that we love to set language learning goals. That is like the buzzword in pretty much all the language learning communities that I have been a part of online, but being able to set experiments, set up projects where you get to observe what is happening and readjust to that instead of goals can tend to help you put less pressure on yourself and also help you enjoy the process of experimentation itself, right? I didn't just get here being able to, speak confidently in whatever language and getting to learn this and that language without a care in the world and with all of the peace of mind overnight, right? I had to do so much work on understanding how I can zoom out of my tunnel vision of just wanting to get to my language learning goal as fast as possible, in fact, and really understand, well, wait a second, like, how am I thinking about my own language learning? How do I feel that it's going? If I do not feel like it's going well, right? If it is a source of frustration and anxiety for me because I constantly feel behind, then how would I like to feel instead? And how can I be a scientist and set a new experiment in order to adjust to how I want to feel in language learning, right? Being able to be a scientist will save you from so much of the mental blocks, of the emotional blocks that we all have at some point in our language learning. If you can really look at your own language learning process and how you learn languages from a non-judgmental lens, then building resentment against the language learning experience, associating your language learning experience with guilt or shame, that will not be there for you. And you can use so much more of your mental and emotional capacity to actually improving your skills in your language instead of worrying and feeling anxiety, feeling behind, feeling not productive enough, and that you're just not as good as everyone else seems to be, etc. Our mindset blocks can be such a fundamental aspect of why we feel we're learning slowly, and being able to recover from them, as being a scientist would help you do, is fundamental to understanding and integrating. By the way, I love to help language learners actually do this through my one-on-one coaching program, Multilingual You. Link is in the pinned comment below to look at more details and book a discovery call to see if we are the right fit. The third tip that is going to be super helpful for all of us to understand and then integrate is that everything gets to count. Even 1% progress does count, right? There's a lot of guilt that we can keep ourselves in when we think about, hey, I don't think that listening to music in my language counts. So I feel like I'm just wasting my time, even though I'm enjoying this music in Spanish, right? Or you can tell yourself, oh, I'm cheating if I ever use subtitles on a film that I'm watching in my target language. Especially when we don't regard the fact that we have a limited capacity and that limited capacity calls for different activities depending on our energy level throughout the day. We are totally usually discounting those lower energy activities that are still productive because they keep us going and they keep us enjoying the process. It is so important to remember how much 1% improvement is. Again, that can help you drop some of the guilt of feeling unproductive and that you're not doing enough, etc. You always are right on time language learner. You're always where you are meant to be, and the stage that you are at currently is always worth just as much as the fluency stage that you want to aim for. When you look back on your language journey, the process of getting to your goal is going to matter. It's going to be what builds meaning about why you were learning the language in the first place, and being able to count everything as just part of that journey to get you where you want to go is so special and releases a lot of pressure from you. Now, in terms of talking about productivity, this kind of goes into my previous point, but another really specific rule is remembering that anything that allows you to operate at your maximum capacity is productive. And that includes taking a rest day from your language. That includes doing a lower energy activity because you just are too tired or too stressed or too busy from your 9-to-5 job to then do a really high energy activity, such as, speaking for an hour or writing an essay or something like that, right? We have to listen to ourselves. And when you think about it, when you just force yourself into your language learning, not only are you building resentment and guilt and shame, a lot of what we've talked about, right? But you are also outsourcing your own trust in yourself by not allowing yourself to slow down enough at all in order to focus on what you actually want, how you actually want to feel, what your needs are, how you need to show up in your own language learning, and adjust your routine so that you can have capacity to continue this very hard, vulnerable thing of learning a language for the long term. I always include personally a rest day out of the whole week, even if I am on a really intensive language study sprint. By not forcing myself to continuously operate at my maximum highest energy level, it's going to help keep me going. And it's also going to help lower my self-critical thoughts of, not being productive enough, etc. Being able to accept your humanness and being able to adjust your routine depending on your capacity for the day, that is one of the hallmarks of long-term language success too. Another rule to integrate even this week into your language learning is that there are no shoulds. We criticize ourselves, perhaps telling ourselves, I should be able to know this word already because I've seen it 10 times. I should be learning this way in order to get fluent in Spanish, but I cannot implement it because of my work schedule. However, I should be able to implement it, so what's wrong with me, right? We are really internalizing blame here, okay, whenever we talk about shoulds. And I know that there is a lot of conflicting advice in different language learning communities about how to approach language learning the best way. And even inside of language learning, right, there are so many different aspects of how to improve a language and what the experts say, what the study says, etc. And I'm not saying that those do not have any merit, right? It is important to understand, what strategies are out there to improve your reading, improve your listening, speaking, whatever. We get so involved in looking at that and how we should be doing different things that we don't even listen to what we truly want. We don't even know how to approach that. And so understanding that there really are no shoulds, and that, again, as I said at the beginning of the video, your language learning does not have to look like anyone else's in order for you to be successful. In order to get to that point, we have to eliminate the shoulds even from our vocabulary of how we talk to ourselves about our own language learning. I will also say that there have been a lot of times when I've told myself, this method should still be working for me because it worked in the past. There must be something wrong with me. When in actuality, instead of blaming ourselves in this context, it's actually that no method, no resource is going to work for you at every single proficiency level, at every single capacity, energy level, in every life season, right? life is always going to get in the way, and what worked for you before might not necessarily work for you now. And it's not because of you, it's simply because of naturally us having different needs as human beings in different areas of our life, as well as different changing energy capacities, right? So as you go into this week, choose at least one of these new rules to implement because they are totally adaptable to you. And again, that's what I love to include when I work with language learners one-on-one is there is no right way to learn. I will give best practices of different strategies that you can do to improve, but even more so to really personalize the process to you. These rules are really the front door to understanding how you learn best without the pressure of feeling that you're behind compared to what everyone else is doing and what their own expectations of you might be. That's really when you start learning languages on your own terms with a peace of mind, but still making it effective for your brain and your schedule and your energy. So again, if you are interested in how that process could look like for you if we work together, make sure to book your free discovery call in the comments below. Other than that, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you did truly enjoy this video, and I hope to see you in another video soon.